Let me tell you a story. And this is not the first time that I've begun this story. This is actually the fourth time that I've begun this story. And it's the second time today. And so 3 of the dogs are next to me asleep because they've heard this already. But we'll see if we can get through it without interruption. Maybe noticing that there's something there on the shelf behind me, and sharp-eyed viewers have seen it in different places around in the last bunch of videos. We'll talk about what it is soon. This is not an unboxing video. There would have been an unboxing video, but unfortunately all of that video and a lot of great, photographs of my family and the dogs and stuff were lost in a battery-related accident. And so, yeah, that's slowed down the delivery of this particular video for a while. But that's only part of the equation. The box that you see there was shipped out and sent to me by a game forwarding company, a freight forwarding company that I recognize, and I was expecting another package at the same time from that company. And so I filmed originally this unboxing thinking that something else was in the box than what was. And so that potential unboxing video that I had in my mind would have been kind of funny and based on some of the elements of discovery which are so important to this particular game. How the mixture of things and the environment and expectation and your actions can all intersect and make something that you didn't expect. But such is life. That opportunity has been lost. So I received about a year ago that box, beautifully and very well protected, wrapped, and nobody threw it over the gate, which is nice. Although they didn't put it in the parcel box as I expect them to. They let it sit in front of the gate. So I opened it up. I've talked about it with people. I had to come to one of those uncomfortable truths about life in recognizing there are vast parts of the text as printed on the page that I can no longer comfortably read. And so entering into the realm of reading glasses was precipitated by this game. And there are some parts of it where, you're doing the adjustment. I thought, wow, is this going to be my life now? And we'll see about that. But it's a game that has stuck with me. Even though it's been a year since I received it, it has remained fully present in that corner of my mind that's thinking about what next, and what happened in play today of this other game, and how does that match up, or how is that reflected in that game? I wonder if you know what that game is. I know that you can't read the title from here, although maybe some of you have found a way to zoom in and figure it out, or maybe some of you already have it and so know, and you're kind of hoping that sooner or later I'll get to some kind of point. But this game, it's time to talk about it so I can at least get it into a different part of my mind. Right. So I've gone through the reading and exploration part of the game that's in that box, and I've gone through the play part of what's in that box, and I've wrestled a bit with how to play it online but not use a VTT, and I've wrestled with how do I find an appropriate space to play it physically with other people, because it is something that requires there to be a space, that there is a little intentionality in how you approach the place that you play and the materials that you play with, and how you think about play itself. And that's something that I appreciate greatly. But let's talk about who made this You may remember a series of videos, 3 videos that I did on the channel a number of years ago now, about a science fiction game about discovery and memory and the loss of memory and the regaining of memory called Nibiru. And it's behind this box. So let's take this off the shelf. It just barely fits on that shelf. So Nibiru. Perhaps you remember it. Right. Incredible art, interesting ideas in a different sort of framing than maybe we've been used to for this kind of game. But one still fully in the realm of rolling dice, looking for certain results, and applying that to how our character is getting through the situation that they're in. This game, right, this beautiful, look how sharp those edges are, right? This incredible box, right, the attention to detail, and this box has been sent to me, you know, around the world to where I am in Korea. Arrived here undamaged. Any damage you may or may not see on the box has been inflicted by my shelving. Inside this box is an entirely other world, right? When we say fantasy, often that just means a certain type of society with magic included and Star Trek style kind of humans in rubber suits sort of approach to the fantastic species and races that you might meet. But in Zephyr, the name of this game, the first thing that greets you when you take the top off the box are these maps of your world, the world of the characters. Double-sided. And I'll say here now, and hopefully remember to do so again, that linked in the description box below and available as a card up in the corner is a much better video, certainly much shorter than this one. We'll be talking about all the different components. And I highly recommend that you watch it. It's incredibly well done. So these maps you have out on the table, and they're your memory and your understanding of your world as you know it, as it's been related to you by others, as you are uncovering it, as you're able to see it from on high, as you ride the currents of the wind, let's say, to your next destination. For you are wind folk. You are creatures composed of masks, of cloaks, of scarves, and composed primarily of wind, of the exhaled emotions of a vast and moving continent-sized creature who's so alien and ineffable. We can only experience it in terms of land mass. We can only experience it in terms of the discarded shreds of emotion that it exudes, which the game takes its name from, Zephyr. These creatures that you play, these wind folk, are an alchemical mix of different outgassings of emotion from Ophoi, this living continent. And its alien nature is not revealed to them by this interaction, by their ingestion of its emotional residue, but their understanding of their own connection to each other and to the world around them is at least given some sort of evidence that they can sift through and recognize. And as their experiences take them across this vast land, and as they do what they need to do to survive, the very building blocks of who and what they are change over time. In a very real sense, in Zephyr, you are what you eat. So, the next thing that you see firmly wedged in foam is the rulebook. We'll talk about that next. Okay, so removed from its carefully protective foam, we have the core rules for Zephyr. This is also available in PDF from the usual sources, including a free or pay what you want quick start, which contains more than enough information for you to give the game a try, to experience for yourself what it is that I'm alluding to, what my reports will suggest in these videos, so you can have the experience for yourself. Zephyr. Now, Zephyr contains a framing device right on the cover, more than just the very alien and compelling art. It's also subtitled as an anarchist game of fleeting identities. If the name itself, Zephyr, isn't enough to grab your attention, if the wild art isn't enough to get your attention, then there's this very unusual statement that it's an anarchist game. And not only that, it's a game about fleeting identities. So a lot here. And if you're resistant to all of these different hooks, then I guess the bait that the fisherman is using to get your attention is just not for you. Not all games are. This game is produced by Federico Sones, who is the proprietor of Araukana. You recognize, perhaps, that little symbol. And as a, let's say, publisher of games, so far we're 2 for 2, the ones that I've had an opportunity to explore, where the tone of the writing, the quality of physical production, and the effectiveness of the art are a very effective combination to deliver the intention behind the game. And that still has to intersect with you and your understanding and your ability to communicate that to the group and their ability to explore on their own, or at least make sense of what it is that you're trying to communicate to them and the way that you actually play. There's a lot of transitional barriers between the creator's idea, the limitations or the advantages or disadvantages, the strengths and weaknesses of form, and the alchemy of play. This book is impressive. It's one of those that I like very much, that feels very much like your friend sitting next to you, just telling you how to play. It's very conversational. It drops references like, if you want to know what I mean about this anarchist part, like here's this book that I've been reading. Why don't you go read it stop now, go read it, or at least skim through it, or however else you get your understanding of books that exist out there, and then come back and see how this relates to that. It says, look here, we don't need to talk about that yet, we can do that later. And it's just, it makes the reading experience like, sitting down and talking with an old friend, which for those of us who are getting older is something to cherish. The next thing you see in the box is this little plastic case, which tells you that these are tokens for Zephyr. It had a little seal here, and it comes with this little velveteen dice bag with the Araukana logo on it. You can put them all in there as you wish. I'm not there yet, and to like to keep them in there. I still want them in the original plastic pouch for some reason, and maybe one day I'll understand that impulse. But for right now, I put them in the bag when we're going to play, and I put them back in the plastic when play is done. So, the next part, let's talk about play. So, play of Zephyr. What are we really talking about here? How can the game be an anarchist game, right? Does that just mean it's a game written by an anarchist? What does it even mean in this day and age to be an anarchist? What flavor of anarchist is it talking about? That sort of stuff. Well, there's links provided in the game if you're really curious. You can go down that rabbit hole yourself. But what if we decide that we're going to play a game with characters who are distinctly not human, the experience of their lives being quite alien to our own? Although there are some points of reference, right? The art portrays them as having 2 arms and 2 legs, of having, well, at least something face-like in the masks that they wear. We can look at the art, we can look at the artistic representations of the wind folk, and we can see shadows of ourselves in them. And yet, the nature of their lives is fundamentally different from our own. They're not wind folk because they cherish the wind. The very thing that the game describes as their constitution is the Zephyr. So if we were to take this non-human society, and if we were to take the idea of play, being able to transport your perspective some distance, maybe a little is sufficient for you, or maybe much farther is what you seek, but to travel some small distance out of your own life and toward someone else's, toward the idea of seeing the world through different eyes, feeling it through different senses, and in that context, having different priorities. For example, what if the culture in which you were raised did not abstract the idea of an obligation or a debt into some fungible resource, into the creation of money as a distancing or convenience serving tool that allows you to get something for literally nothing. What if the service you require from someone else comes with the obligation to provide a service of your own? And what if the dance of society isn't one of haves and have-nots piling up fictional notes about something that is no longer real? And I have more of these unreal things than you do, so I have more power and status. I have wealth. What if instead this were the simple reciprocity of I help you because you need help, and I trust you to help me because why wouldn't you? How alien that idea has become. So what if we take that as our first look into the world of Zephyr and the people who occupy it? And of course, there must be contrast. There must be those within this world who have taken the far less humane path that we humans have ourselves taken in our creation of these systems of getting something for nothing and pretending like it's all that important. So, there are different regions, there are different factions, and of course there's this prime key of Zephyr, which is represented in the one thing about it that the characters can understand, which is its color. And the mixture of the different colors of Zephyr, and you can see some of them here on the box, the black, the yellow or gold, silver, magenta. The different mixtures of these create, in different combinations and different amounts, the very alchemy of this creates emotions in the characters themselves. And as they travel, following their own goals, as they travel, they must survive. They must hunt. And so a significant portion of the game, interestingly enough, is on the characters living their lives, hunting, pulling, let's say, nutrition from the things that they hunt, choosing what they hunt by the type of Zephyr that is reported to reside within them or can be observed from their behavior to be a dominant force in that behavior, preparing them and drawing sustenance from them, and how different effects in the world, such as gliding on currents of wind across Ophoy, causes the exhalation of some of these elements from their constitution, the very constitution of their body, their constituent parts, so to speak, draining away some of the things that have been shaping their outlook, their emotions, their reactions, their view. And in replenishing that with other gusts of Zephyr in some other color, how that shapes, reshapes their personality anew. And of course, with this survival theme, hunting, cooking in the wild, and throwing yourselves in an act of faith on wind carrying you across mountain chains and lakes and the like. There must be risk, and there might be combat, and there might be other dangers, which, in a very literal sense in this game, might rend the character sheet, which might permanently end the life of the character or maim them in some way every time your eye falls on the sheet. You are reminded of this experience. There are some very real steps taken in the game, from the use of those glittering crystals I showed you earlier in the colors of the Zephyr on your sheet, in the different aspects of who your character is, powering it, fueling it, giving it life, and how these things can be expended to do things as the character goes through their lives, leaving hunger behind and the need to hunt and replenish, but maybe not with the same balance. There are very real steps taken in the game to help you take that step into someone else's shoes, into someone else's perspective. And you might approach it distantly, out here, right? My character would, right? Well, because I have this particular mixture of magenta and yellow, I think that the character would. You could play the game that way if you like, but it's all played openly on the table. People can see the sheets. People can see the tokens. People can see the maps. They understand through the conversation of play what it is that you need to do or want to do. And so, with this visible reminder of the very real world that the characters themselves are really experiencing, a lot of that distancing language can be forgone. And so there is a certain amount that can be done and understood in silence. Game speak can be dropped away, and the character can be allowed to fill that space. And our ability to describe how they act, our ability to receive the description of others and have it inform our imagination, have that in turn inform how we react, and how that bond that's built as we share those elements of imagination. We keep some parts of our imagination private if we want, but that bond that builds in the group as we interact in this place, as the actions we take, the reactions we make, and the interactions we form through the conversation of play lead us out of this world and toward this one, to whatever degree we allow it. I think for that reason alone, an experience of playing Zephyr can be a sort of transition and an on-ramp from one sort of play to another. And it doesn't really matter in which direction that goes, whether you're coming from a largely imaginative, way of playing, where system is shoved to the side and only comes out in certain moments to tweak that sense of drama, where in-character play is highly prized, or where in-character play never happens. Moving toward, through the way that Zephyr does its system, moving toward games that use system in a different way, that use more systems, that use more express procedures, and are trying to show you something else. Likewise, the reverse is true. The currents of the wind ebb and flow, eddy, swirl, and always come back around to you. And so, Through play of this game, I managed something that is rare for me. I'm not highly motivated by the art of a game, although I am appreciative of art that is obviously good for its type, and of art direction of a product which is obviously well done. Like that person truly understood the assignment of what this game text is trying to communicate and what the system contributes to the feel of play. And when all those things are in harmony, I can really appreciate it. And there are a lot of games out there which have art which speaks to me and art which dissuades me. And I cannot say that the character portraits in Zephyr made me go, wow, I want to play that guy. It's of a style that, and as this video has been going on, you've been seeing, the art go by on the screen. You've been seeing the interiors of the book go by on the screen. And if you're just hearing that and you didn't realize that that was going on, go back and take a look. It's truly impressive art. But for me as a person, that art didn't compel me to want to play those characters. It was the text that made me want to play these characters and explore their very strange world, a fantasy world in a truer sense of the word than what we might get from a much more popular game labeled fantasy. Even if it's a fantasy game you've never heard of, like Desolation, which also bravely went into that terrain of fantasy and said, you know what? Everything's going to be different. Well, in Zephyr, everything really is different. And you might take a look at the art and the character art and go, wow, I can't wait to play that guy. And you might find it hard to get through the text. You might find it to be like a leap of faith to say, really, there's no dice? We just use these tokens? And the game is going to strike you differently as you expose yourself to it. The game is going to strike you again differently as you start to play it, and the game will change as you play it until it becomes your way of playing Zephyr. And I love that exploration, no matter what the game is, and whether that results in a positive experience or one where we say, yeah, I really enjoyed that game, or yeah, that game was fine, or I never want to play that game again, and or I hope no one else was as harmed by this game as I was. I think there's a lot in here to explore. The idea of what this world is like and why its characters do what they do, how they do what they do, and the magic of imagination. So if any of this sounds interesting or compelling, I hope you will consider giving the game a try. So it's been a year since Federico Soames sent this game to me. It's been a few months since my own way of wanting to do reviews compelled me to buy the game for myself. So I received a print copy, no cost to myself. I have gone on to buy the PDF copy for myself, and that has removed the final barrier that was keeping this, not review, not yet, but this overview from coming. So, there should be more about Zephyr in the future. And if there isn't, it doesn't mean it's not in here, working away. And you can see signs in the other videos that we do that each game along the way has had an impact, has had an influence, has enabled and changed and shaped the way the next game appears to us. And going back to older games, games that we maybe didn't understand when we were younger, again, opens up new doors and can restart this whole process and enable exploration of all of these old games, none of which go out of date, none of which become dead games. They can only be forgotten. And forgetting them is a choice. Let's not make that choice. And let's be willing to explore the new and innovative, challenging games when they come. Anyway, until the next time, take care.